This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Just want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that for you in advance. And if you can't get to the podcast version and give us a 5-star review, drop it in the comments on this video, right here on this video. We'll take them right there. We'll take it however we can get it. But I think there was one interesting thing that stood out to the Hawks last night. That was an ugly win. Are we going to have to get used to that? And what is going to determine whether or not Terry Fontenot is going to make a move at the trade deadline? And last but not least, and for the culture, Essence Magazine dropped their top 10 R&B artists of all time. I got questions, and I may have a few answers as well. But first, T, we got to talk about the Hawks. 118-113 last night. And the Hawks, one thing about this game, I was up and down throughout the entire game. I was like, oh, my God. Oh, that looks good. Oh, that was a great play. Oh, man, what are y'all doing? Why y'all not playing defense? What's going on? But I think when it came down to the last 2 minutes of this game, T, and when you talk about John Collins on that block,
yes,
when he got that turnover, he turned around, didn't give up on the play, and went back and blocked Cade Cunningham. That was absolutely the game changer. And I think after that play was made, I was like, oh yeah, they got this one.
Yeah. And you're right. I think that this is the kind of game, in two positive ways, by the way.
Right.
This is the kind of game that we do need to get used to. Ugly games against any opponent, especially those who have any semblance of 1, 2, or 3 players whose names we don't even know that can hit a three. Let's just be honest, because that's still an area. That's still an area where they're developing. In terms of Dejounte Murray and where does he go and kind of where does he fit in there. I just really believe that's why his offensive game didn't kick in until late in the game, because he was busy trying to make sure he was where he needed to be in his spots on defense, right? Because anytime it seemed like the Pistons wanted to spot up, they could find their spot so fast. So I have no problem with him having scored his 19 down the stretch. But I think this is what this team is going to look like for 2 reasons. Number one, it really will probably take about a quarter of the season, about 20 games in, before we see who the real Hawks are, because everybody is, I believe every one of them is finding their way. Think about it, Jarvis. Trae has to now play more off the ball. Dejounte Murray is the vocal leader of the team, but has to figure out how to co-lead with Trae. DeAndre Hunter is trying to figure out where exactly does he go. Should I focus this particular game on my defense or should I focus on my offense? Because sometimes with him, it's a give and a go. John Collins. Okay, now I'm starting to be able to do my offensive thing and I'm going to do it, but I know when they need me, I think. And then fifth, Clint Capella. If I don't get an alley-oop for a score, then maybe they shouldn't send it to me down low and let me bounce the ball, dribble it at all for a shot. Let me just focus on 2 things, wiping the glass and looking for my alley-oop, because Onyeka Okongwu between that 4 and 5 is right out there. So that's one part. Second part, Jarvis, is I'm not mad at the Crazy, because if the Crazy ends up with a win, let's face it, they wouldn't have won this game last year. They didn't.
Oh, no. It was nailed last year.
2 out of 3 times they did not win this game last year. So I am good with it.
The Hawks actually break a 4-game losing streak to the Detroit Pistons on the road. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? But I think that, and another thing that really stood out to me, T, I think, and this is not just hyperbole. I feel like this was the best game that I ever seen John Collins play. Just from a standpoint of just showing his all-around game, showing that, hey, he's willing to play defense and showing that he's willing to rebound and be a consistent double-double guy. 19 and 11. And then that number that really just stood out to me, not those. I know he's capable of that. 4 blocks, T? 4. 12 as a team. 12 as a team. Clint Capella had 4 blocks on as well. So those are some of the things that just it lets me know that this team is different. And if different is winning ugly like this, I'm okay with that. Because I don't care for being one of the top scoring teams in the league and also being a 26 ranked team defensively. You know what I mean? So if this is closing that gap, T, I'm totally fine with it. But yeah, I think JC had an excellent game. I'm using his nickname. I don't normally call him JC. I call him John or John Collins. But when he played like JC last night, and I think that like that was very promising to see the way John played last night.
Right, because that was one of those games where, like the question I posed before, where he's like, okay, now I get to exercise and evolve as an offensive player, but I know they need me over here on defense. And last night it was like the entire game he was growing into, oh, okay, this is what it looks like. And I'm not trying to be facetious or simplistic. This is what it looks like for me to be the two-way player that the Hawks need. Not just a two-way player, but the one that they need, the one that comes out and shows you some position 5, some center type energy. 4 blocks, that's some center type energy. And Jarvis, low key, he's done that back to back. It's been a couple years since he's had back to back games where he had 4 blocks. And the other thing is, going back to what you said, I do think, if I had to go player of the game, I believe his numbers are probably just amazing across the board. But for DJ and what we're talking about with the defense in the fourth quarter, after Cade Cunningham torched the heck out of them in the first half, DJ shut him down. 4 points was all he could get in the fourth quarter. But this is a good thing. The Hawks are only allowing 22 points per game in fourth quarters this year. That is second best in the league. So you got to give him some love for that. And you got to give him love for being leading the league in fourth quarter defensive rating. You got to, that goes back to what you said. If this is going to be how it is, I am okay with it because we're looking and digging into the defensive numbers and not so much looking at the offensive rating, which was where they were number 1 for most of last year. And we know what happened last year.
No doubt about it. And I think that just from a leadership standpoint, I think like if a guy can essentially come in 1 year and change the dynamic of a team and who they are, I think we talking about Dejounte Murray being that guy, right? That as the leader. You know what I mean? Because Trae was going off and doing his thing offensively, getting to the free throw line, which he was able to take advantage of, 16 or 17 from free throw. So that was huge. He was able to get into the paint and do what he needed to do and take advantage of the mismatches that was presented to him. So I think that, and Trae can be a leader within that. But when you talk about, hey, this dude dropped 22 on us in the first half. This needs to change. Hey, Dejounte said, you know what? I got you. It's the fourth quarter. I got you. And DeAndre Hunter, he did a better job on Bojan Bogdanovic. I was a little upset at him when he got that 6th foul on that 3-point play because, Bojan was passing out work. And I think that was something that, you got to keep an eye on and be cognizant of. But I think we kind of answered our own question yesterday as far as like who can be that guy, or did we see it? And I think we saw it last night.
Yes, I agree. I think we started the start of it. And real quick, there was someone I heard who was like going off on, well, why shouldn't Trae be the leader? And because he's been here 4 or 5 years and he's your best player on your team. The best player is not always the leader. The best player is not always even the heart and soul.
Solomon Hill was a leader, and he's nowhere near the best player.
Solo, the guy whose stat line was pretty much 0 on everything. He was your heart and soul, and he was your leader. He was all of the above, but not your best player. Trae, like you said, is going to lead in different ways. Like yesterday, he was leading in terms of, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to play some physical ball. I'm going to get to the line, and so is the rest of this team. That was his leadership piece. DJ was talking, vocalizing his leadership piece. And so, hey, like you said, he said, oh, I got this. You guys do a little bit for me, and I got the rest on this Cade Cunningham. And then, like you said, John Collins, JC, was then able to show his heart and soul, because that's the kind of leadership he brings to the table, the heart.
No doubt about it. And T, I think I want to kind of get into something that we talked about yesterday. We're talking about Dansby Swanson and what our gut feeling about whether or not he's going to be able to come back. But I think there are a couple of things that outside of Dansby that I feel like are pretty big deal. There are two things, right? The first thing that comes to mind is Marcel Ozuna. What in the heck are they going to do with him? And whether or not they're going to bring back Kenley Jansen. Which one of those things do you think that can be a big thing for Alex Anthopoulos to get accomplished?
I think it's going to be bigger to decide and determine if Kenley Jansen is someone that whom you want to bring back. Right. I honestly think that Marcel Ozuna has already kind of written his ticket out of the city. And not just on the personal level, but I'm talking about professionally. He's literally declined like really month after month for the time that he's been with the Braves, except for shades of greatness that he was showing. But more importantly, we're talking about like him being a liability at the plate. Well, Jarvis, they don't need any liabilities in the field. They only need liabilities in the outfield, and that's him.
Not at all.
That's him. So I just think what he brings to the table is virtually non-existent. I think Alex Anthopoulos can probably go out and find somebody who is more skilled in both areas and you can get him for either the same money or less. It's Kenley Jansen.
Yeah, and I think that I'm right along with you, because I think that a lot of people have paid so much attention to to Dansby Swanson. I think they kind of forget about, hey, Kenley Jansen is a guy that you probably need to bring back at least for one more year, because I love what Raciel Iglesias did, but I wouldn't mind keeping him in that role, because we know he's going to be around, and setup guys are just as hard to find as guys who are closers. So and Kenley Jansen, when you needed Kenley Jansen to come in and shut that bad boy down, he did that, especially in that Mets series when he had 3 straight saves. So I think those are some of the things you need to pay attention to as we move along in Braves. And I think Alex Anthopoulos, whatever happens with the Braves, I think that we will know that Alex Anthopoulos has a plan in place. Now, do you have a plan in place when it comes to what's going on with betonline.net? You don't? Okay, cool. Well, here we go. Here's why you need to go there. All right, it is the easiest and fastest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news of every league: NBA, NHL, NFL. We got a Thursday night game that we kind of referenced. The Bucks and the Ravens are going down tonight. I think the favorite has flipped. The Bucks were a 1.5 underdog. Now they're the favorite. Why? You want to know why? Go to betonline.net. It continues to be the top online source for all sports wagering information, live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. You listen to us for everything Atlanta sports related. For everything bet related, gambling related, go to betonline.net. They have got you covered. Because here's what I want you to do. You're trying to figure out how you're going to make some money for the weekend. You're trying to look at some games. I need you to head to betonline.net today, or use your mobile device to learn about, the action happening today, because BetOnline is where the game starts. I'm so excited about it, I can't even get it out to you.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you know what we are also excited about? The fact that we are T-4 days away from the showdown at the Benz. Falcons are back home to take on the Panthers. And of course, remember, they are 3-4, sitting atop the NFC South, along with the Bucks, who play tonight. So while they have their eye on what's going to go down, and they're installing the game plan to take on the Panthers Sunday, let's just be real. They have their eyes on what's going on in Tampa tonight, because the Bucks are taking on the Ravens. That should be an incredible matchup. Yeah, one of the better Thursday games that we're probably ever going to see this season.
Right. Hopefully.
But it also has weight, right. It has weight for both teams, but particularly for what we want to talk about, it's about the Bucks. And you think about this. We're in week 7. Never thought we were going to be having a conversation in week 7 about the Falcons being in the mix for a playoff position. So you got to wonder, Jarvis, are the Falcons looking at the outcome tonight and kind of saying, okay, what if the Bucks go 3-5? And it could go either way. What if the Bucks go 3-5 and then we take sole possession of first place? But what if the Bucks go 4-4? That could also bring pressure to say, hey, we know that we need to get a corner in place, and we need to get a corner in place fast. So how much are we looking over our shoulders at the Bucks to have to make that decision?
I think as fans and people who cover this team, we're definitely going to be looking at it. But I think that regardless of what happens, Terry Fontenot has to do his due diligence, right? Because even though Arthur Smith is talked about being comfortable with the guys that he has on this roster, because that's why they on this roster. You know, he always refers to, hey, he's very proud of the guys that they put together. And to be honest with you, they've done a good job of putting guys together with what they have to deal with, right? So they are working with they're working with. You know what I mean? So yeah, I barely can get it out. You know, but I think that the thing though is for Fontenot though, he has to say, I have to take advantage of every opportunity that I get better. If somebody is making a call saying, "Hey, you're interested in the guy," he has to take that phone call. Or if he's looking around the league, and I know he has people all over the league and within the division as well, and say, "Hey, what would it take for this guy?" And I think that Terry Fontenot has to do his due diligence regardless of what happened, the outcome of this game, because I think that when you are 7 games into the season, like you mentioned, and you're tied for first place in the division, when this team was ranked 45th, Arthur Smith said 45th out of 32 teams. I still chuckle every time I bring that up. But anyway, I those are some of the things that you have to take a look and appreciate that for where you are, but you always have to look to get better as a general manager of this team.
Yeah, and you could do something like get yourself another version of a Casey Hayward, where Casey Hayward may not have been someone that we even talked about when we were looking at the available free agents earlier this year in the offseason. But when they got him, like, oh yeah, we remember Casey Hayward. He was pretty good. And then he showed shades of who he used to be before he went on IR. Maybe you find a guy like that who is really still, cap friendly, regardless of the fact that you have $9.2 million to work with. Or the other thing is this: we just saw that, and I think it's Kadarius Toney. I just saw that he was traded. So the Giants and I believe the Chiefs are making a trade.
Yeah.
When you went to bed last night, did you really expect?
And they're already Super Bowl contenders. The Chiefs are already Super Bowl contenders, and they're still trying to. They're still making moves. Yeah.
With a dominant defense, and they said, "Hey, Bears, you willing? You interested in sending Robert Quinn our way?" Wow. So there could also be a conversation, to your point, that Terry Fontenot is having with other teams about players that we would never think about, but that team, for whatever reason, might start shopping. And if you want to find out about more of that kind of information, where you're trying to figure out, kind of that bigger picture of Locked On Sports Today, that's what'll give it to you. So of course, you always listen to us first. We appreciate you, but really your next listen, check them out, because they give you the biggest stories of the day. So they're probably giving you reaction to the Robert Quinn trade and how that's a trickle down effect in a very muddled up NFC. They give you instant reaction. So if another blockbuster trade comes, that's where you want to go. Big game recaps. We told you, big game tonight, one of the best Thursday night games in recent memory. They'll tell you about it. And hey, kind of like you look for and for the culture right here on ATL Day Ones, they have their version on Locked On Sports Today, and they call it Shake of the Day. So check it out. Available on Odyssey app, available on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Check them out. And I don't doubt that they're probably having this same conversation, because the Falcons are in the mix and people are talking about what they can actually do, and whether or not, to our point, do they go out and look for somebody, or do they find themselves at least in a situation where, hey, Jarvis, if they can't find the right trade partner, at least, and they have an Isaiah Oliver who knows the system and you can move him around. Darren Hall has been serviceable since he's been in there. And worst case scenario, you may not want to use Avery Williams, but at least he played corner last year. And at least he also is now in his second year of Dean Peace's system. Should you have to go that route, and maybe you only do it against the likes of the Panthers, because let's face it, what they did to the Bucs was an aberration. Let's just keep it real. So ultimately speaking, that might weigh in as well. Like, okay, let's see how it goes this Sunday. And then to our point, we know that they have a little bit of a, I want to call it a super soft schedule, but kind of a soft schedule, because you play the Panthers again, you play the Steelers, and all kinds of teams before your bye, that maybe it gives you at least wiggle room and a comfortability that you have the guys I just mentioned, should you not be able to get anybody, any DBs on before the trade deadline.
I mean, because he also not only has Terry Fontenot has to think about today, he has to think about the future as well. Yes. And you don't want to mortgage future draft picks for a guy that, or rent a player. because that's what I don't want the Falcons to do. I don't want them to get guys who are going into the last year of their contracts, because I have a thing about guys who just ball out in the last year of their contracts. More than likely, that's the only time they're going to ball out in the last year of their contract. So I think that, in order for, if there's a move out there, like a guy like a Casey Hay, who nobody really checking for, but is a vet and can kind of give you some a solid foundation as your team gets back healthy. And I think that you make that move, but you don't go out and get guys like a Bradley Chubb, who's going into, obviously he can help the Falcons, but he's going into the last year of his contract. So those are the guys I would stay away from, because I know everybody want to bring up the whole, they're going to have a lot of money next year, but they still have to pay their guys. AJ Terrell, Chris Lindstrom's going to have to get paid. All those, like, think about what we're talking about now. We talked about the 2020 draft. Those guys are up. They're up. So that's something that you're going to have to pay attention to and keep an eye on. And Terry Fontenot is going to have to do that as well. So, but I think the one thing that also helps me out and keeps me at ease if they don't make a move is the fact that D. Alford is back. He was limited in practice. Back at practice Wednesday, and he was in a limited fashion. That's a good sign. And Arthur Smith talked about how he was day to day. So if they're out there and he's feeling well and he's doing what he's supposed to do, he's going to be out there on Sunday. So those are some of the things that helps me out. But it's always cool to talk about bringing new guys in, because hey, that's just how we are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, if there's somebody out there, like you said, who it makes sense to go and get that guy, because maybe he's not in the final year of his contract and is going to ball out and cost you just to ball out for like 10 games, right. and like the Browns aren't going to say, hey, give me Greedy Williams, like give me everything, all that you have.
Right. Yeah.
For him. Okay. Yeah. But Terry Fontenot has shown that he is a really good negotiator. He can leverage what he has. And then Arthur Smith obviously has shown that he can use exactly who and what he has, because somehow, some way, in spite of Marcus Mariota, this team is still 3-4. And so I was thinking about this, and Jarvis, I'm just doing this for kicks and giggles because of course we know better, but he's still trending. So I'm still asking, with the playoffs within reach right now,
always true.
It's safe to say, but is it safe to say that Marcus Mariota has been marked as safe again this week?
Yeah, and you know what? To be honest with you, I don't mind having this conversation, or at least this bring up every week, because that's what it is. It is what it is. He's a professional. He's a professional athlete, and of course, if he doesn't play well, we're gonna point it out. If he does play well, we're gonna point that out as well. So I think those are some of the things that. But to answer your question, I do believe he is safe, because, like, this is something that the Falcons are going to have to continue to work through. It's going to be a week-to-week thing. I wholeheartedly believe that if there's a situation where the Marcus Mariota is putting his team in bad situations, I know for a fact that Arthur Smith will make that change. And I just don't feel like that they are at that point right now. Yeah. If you would continue to turn the ball over and fumbling snaps and all that stuff, we probably would have seen Desmond Ridder. But since that's not the case, and like the Falcons are, people kind of understand what's going on with the offensive line. Like, hey, you can't throw the ball 35 times. I don't care who's back there at quarterback. They're gonna have that heat on their behind. So I think you kind of move along, lick your wounds, and come back and try to get this dub against Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and also buy yourself one more week with the fact that you're probably going to get Cordero Patterson back out there next week. So that should bolster your run attack, and hopefully Damian Williams is not far behind. Now, you know what else should bolster energy for you guys? That's a Built Bar. Man, it's Thursday. You're trying to get through the rest of the week. You just got really a day and a half, and then it's the weekend. But if you need a little uptick and you need a little push in your life that's healthy, go for a Built Bar, and actually go for the cookie dough chunk puffs, because they are covered in 100% real chocolate and pretty good light, chewy texture. But always we tell you about the healthy things on this show, and that bar is not outside of the realm of healthy. It's actually way inside, with 160 grams of calories that you're able to take advantage of, but also 15 grams of protein. So really you get to kind of balance that out. And hey, it's really easy to go and get more information and find out how you can order. You go to built.com, locked 15 and you get 15% off that first order. So go check out the cookie dough chunk puffs right now, and really anything in that entire spread, because they really have a lot to offer you. That is built.com. Use the code locked 15 rather, and you will get 15% off your very first order.
It is locked on 15. Go ahead and put that on in there. Make sure you lock on getting 15% off. Locked on 15. There you go. That is the code to get 15% off at built.com. Now, T, this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. And sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down this show. Today is no different. Essence has released their top 10 R&B artists of all time, T. Woo! Now, when I was going through this list, I saw the number one. I started looking at it and kind of figuring out. I was like, all right, you got Beyonce up there. You got and then you got Whitney at number one. And then you had Michael Jackson at number 2. That was interesting. And then you had Beyonce at top at 3, and then you had Miss Baker. I'm sorry, Mariah Carey at 4, and then you had Luther at number 5. Now, I got a little problem with that. You mean to tell me Luther ain't number 5 now? I had a little. Like, come on now.
Wait, go through the whole 6 through 10, and
okay,
then break them all the way down. So, I'm sure you have more to break them down on.
So we got 5. Luther at 5, Anita's at 6, Miss Baker's at 6, Aretha Franklin 7, Usher at 8, or Usher, depending on where you're from. Mary J. Blige at 9, and wrapping up the top 10, Al Green. I know I've kind of mentioned what stood out to me, T. Yeah. Like, which one do you agree with, or do you disagree?
I would have to say, for me, it was Michael Jackson. I don't think he belongs in the top 10 at all, because I think if you're talking about vocal quality and the things you're able to do, the different octaves that you can sing in, and telling a story, kind of floating over lyrics or floating over the music.
He's more of a performer, right?
That's what there it is. We're
talking about performer. He's number 1.
Boom, he's number 1. We're not even asking that question. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Same for Beyonce. Yeah. And I'm Beehive all day, every day.
No doubt.
But if we're not talking about performer, if we're talking about pure singer, I don't know how Aretha Franklin is not number 1. And I love Whitney, but the things that Aretha could do to just pierce your soul is unmatched. Wow. And how you could put Beyonce and Michael Jackson on the list, but leave and Al Green, just hear me out, and leave off Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, and Stevie Wonder. Oh, it's a problem.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm looking at you under, over, all the way through my glasses.
And much as I get down with Usher too.
Yes,
he's another one of those guys that, like, I think they probably got the top 5 of the people that possibly shouldn't be in the top 10. Yeah. But you talking about top 5 as far as performers, people I would pay a lot of money to see. Mike is not, unfortunately, no longer with us, but if Mike was here, like, as an adult, I would probably put out a lot of money to go out and go see this dude, and Usher as well, because he puts on the show. So I think they probably mixed the whole the performance and the vocals. If we just talking vocals, like, this list looks totally different to me, because I think Al is up there. I think Gladys is somewhere in that top 10 as well. So Patty, you have a lot of right. Come on now, Stevie Wonder. Like, how do you leave Stevie out totally? And so I think it's just some things that you have to kind of like think about, because even in the article they talked about their voices and whether or not they were soprano or alto. And when you start talking like that, like, okay, if those are the parameters for it to be on this list, like, y'all might probably need to change this bad boy around, or y'all need to send those names down to us, and we'll come up with a nice little top 10 for you.
Indeed. And if your goal in putting Beyonce on the list was because you wanted to kind of mix in some newer generation artists, like, I have no problem with Mary. You know that she is my favorite. But Mary, for me, if you really are looking for a vocalist, then you have to put Jennifer Hudson in there and take Beyonce out, because J Hud is a show nut singer. You could even put Fantasia in the mix if you chose to. But again, I think you called it perfectly. They mixed singers and performers, and that's where the problem started.
And you know what else? T, I have a problem with. So I've been, you know me, sometimes I go down a rabbit hole on social media, and I've been seeing a lot of slander that I have to address on this show before we get out of here. People have been talking about Wingstop as if it is subpar, as if it's not a good place to go get some wings. Like, people, let me tell y'all something, man. For all you folks that feel like you got to get wings the size of your fingernail, y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop because this is getting ridiculous. I came across a little GIF. Somebody's about, yeah, Wingstop needs to. If you think Wingstop has good wings, you need to move away from Atlanta. No, I'm staying right where I am. Like, yeah, like, come on, stop playing. Hot with sprinkled with the lemon pepper with real size wings that I can actually believe were on a real chicken. Like, you know those wings that you go to the little Chinese food spots and the wings and hibachi, those wings be the size of my doggone fingernail, T. You mean tell me that came from a chicken? Stop playing. Stop playing with me. I'd rather have a steroid chicken than doggone anorexic chicken wing up here going in my mouth. No, man, stop playing around with me.
And if anybody thinks that Jarvis is being dramatic, then you don't know Jarvis because this dude
I'm the resident
about
wing
that
expert.
wing life. So if he says it's a problem, it is a problem. So you guys stop hating on Wingstop because he's coming for you. And I'm not even a wing person. I don't do wings because that's too much work to get to the meat. But if I'm going to do it, I am going to do some lemon peppers at Wingstop, or I'm going to put the extra seasoning on the wings at JJ's Fish and Wings because Jarvis told me about that spot, and it's on and popping. And you know what else is going to be on and popping tomorrow? We're going to talk more Hawks. We're going to talk about what they need to do to get this sweep in Detroit. We'll have that for you tomorrow. Hopefully some good reaction to Ravens Bucks and what implications that might have for the Falcons. And also, of course, we're going to preview keys to the game for the Falcons to beat the Panthers Sunday. And we didn't get to it today, but we got some more Braves talk for you guys because, hey, Braves are still out here getting accolades in the postseason, and we have reaction. So you want to hear about it? Come back tomorrow, and we will talk about it. In the meantime, enjoy the beautiful weather because we got a beautiful day today here in the A.
And make sure you check out Locked On Sports today because we know y'all rock with us. Make sure you rock with them as well. They got a lot of good stuff going on, and you can find them wherever you find us, on the Odyssey app and on YouTube, and wherever you download your podcast. Y'all make sure y'all come back now. You hear?